Hello and welcome to FlightGlobal Focus, a new podcast from FlightGlobal offering insight and analysis into the world of aviation. We'll be publishing episodes twice weekly, so join us every Friday for a review of the week's news and again on Monday for a deep dive into topics from the worlds of aerospace, defense, and airlines. I'm Alfred Chua, Asia Airlines editor at FlightGlobal, and today we'll be continuing our deep dive podcast looking at some of the airlines that have caught our eye this year. We'll look at their challenges and opportunities and what they tell us about the wider market. Joining me this week is my colleague and FlightGlobal's airlines reporter for the Americas, Howard Hardee. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Alfred. Thanks for having me on.
So if you've been following our podcast, you will know that we spoke about the ANA Group in our last deep dive. And this week, we are going to travel across the Pacific to look at United Airlines. Now, like ANA, United Airlines was a winner at the recent Airline Strategy Awards, where we recognized United CEO Scott Kirby. Now, the Airline Strategy Awards were held in London in mid-July. Judges were impressed by Kirby's leadership of the wider industry, with broader topics such as sustainability. One of the judges noted that United has worked out how to become a retailer, and they have, quote, just broken the model. This is what the judge said. They're starving low-cost rivals of traffic, and they do it through great personal service. At the same time, also, we see that United has also doubled down on its network expansion and is continuing to grow its fleet. And all of this is set against a domestic demand environment that's looking fairly weak, amid economic uncertainty as well. So before I go any further, to give us a better picture of United and its strategy, I'm going to bring on my colleague Howard, who has been following the ins and outs of the airline closely. So Howard, let's start off with a broader picture of United. What's the fundamental business model for United Airlines?
Like one of our judges said, United has effectively become something like a retailer, or maybe like a bank. United generates a huge chunk of their revenue from their credit card and loyalty programs. Those programs insulate the carrier from many of the ups and downs of the airline business, so they are not reliant on selling coach class seats. United and their main rival Delta are similar in this way. They like to call the strategy diversifying revenue streams, which means that their financial results aren't as vulnerable to dips in air travel demand. On the operations side, they fly one of the world's largest fleets and have an extensive international network. Their international business is a huge part of their success, and they're increasingly investing in the premium segment, so the products that they can charge more money for. United has these systems dialed in very well, and they're also big on customer segmentation like a retailer. So they have different products at different price points depending on where you can afford to sit in the cabin, with perks and upgrades available along the way. Meanwhile, they have rehabbed their brand and come out of the COVID pandemic as one of the very strongest airlines worldwide. Scott Kirby, their CEO, is widely recognized as correctly predicting how demand for international air travel would come roaring back after the COVID pandemic let up. He positioned the carrier really well to capitalize on that phenomenon. Delta did this as well, whereas a carrier like American chose to focus on domestic flying coming out of COVID. Then Kirby did it again. He played Oracle by sort of predicting the struggles that low-cost carriers are currently experiencing. So there is some perception around the industry that United has been a step ahead of competitors recently.
Right. Okay. And how do you see United fitting into the wider North American market?
United and Delta are very much the top dogs in the US, no question. American and Southwest have fallen behind in terms of profitability, while United and Delta really rake in the revenue from their international and premium segments, like I mentioned. We have watched those two emerge really as the big two atop the airline industry, where they generate the majority of the profits for the entire US airline sector. There is even some talk that United will eventually overtake Delta as the highest revenue airline in the world. Quite notably as well, United has really put the screws to the low-cost carriers in the US. Earlier, I mentioned market segmentation. Well, United has really embraced its low-cost product, the back of the bus where seats go for similar prices being offered by Frontier and Spirit and other low-cost carriers. So United is dominant with their international offerings out of their big hubs in Chicago and Houston and San Francisco and New Jersey, with this big emphasis on premium products. But they also have this very competitive low-cost product that is putting extra pressure on discount carriers, not to mention the likes of Southwest Airlines.
Right. Okay. And we can't talk about United without mentioning its kind of the sheer size of its operations. And I think in the first quarter of this year, United said that it received its 1,000th aircraft. Could you give us some color in terms of what the magnitude of operations is like at United Airlines?
Right. So United and American have both recently entered the 1,000 aircraft club with their mainline fleets, which is really sort of incredible. So that doesn't count regional jets. United operates a vast fleet of Boeing 737s on the narrowbody side, more than 550 of them. They also operate some A319s, and they're leasing A321neos while they're waiting for more MAX jets. On the wide-body side, they have absolutely huge fleets of Boeing 787s and 777s. They still operate dozens of the longest narrow-bodies as well, the 757, which are aging and nearing the end of their service lives. So yeah, just an absolutely massive fleet with a bunch of different types of jets. In fact, United has been boasting recently that it operates the largest fleet in the world, kind of thumping its chest at rivals like a gorilla.
Right. Yes. So that's quite a large fleet there. And also we also know that United placed conditional orders for Jet Zero's proposed blended wing body, or the BWB airliner. I think it was earlier this year. Could you talk us through a little bit more about that, Howard?
Yeah, Kirby really seems to believe that BWB concepts will reach the market and offer an alternative to the tube and wing designs that have dominated the industry for decades. He just recently said that we will see them flying around the world at some point in the future. Airbus's CEO also recently said that he thinks BWB designs are feasible for aircraft larger than narrow-body size. And yes, United has been a backer of startup Jet Zero, which is based in Los Angeles and is trying to bring a 250-passenger airliner to the market by the 2030s. But whether that really comes to pass and Jet Zero is competing with the next commercial platforms from Airbus and Boeing very much remains to be seen.
And so, we'll move on from fleet. We'll talk a little bit about network. And, we know that United has recently announced some unusual new routes that were not, they were kind of unexpected choices. What do you see are the kind of opportunities and challenges for United in terms of its network?
Yeah, in the past year, United has targeted some unusual network strategies, like they introduced flights to Greenland and Mongolia. I view this as sort of a social media-driven business strategy. It seems like United is looking at places that are trending, maybe on Instagram and TikTok, and using that data to influence their route mapping. They've also expressed this idea that if they build it, passengers will come. This mindset being that United itself can be the trend center by introducing new and exotic locations to its network. It's worth noting here that United is one of a few different North American carriers waiting for deliveries of the A321XLR, along with American and Air Canada. United says that they're going to use those long-range Airbus narrowbodies to reach even more unusual destinations. So we'll see if United was anticipating another trend here too, and whether those sort of oddball routes work out for them.
Okay, interesting. So, to sum up, you've been following United for quite a bit. What can we look forward to for United for the rest of the year? What are some of the talking points that, you're looking out for?
Yeah, we kind of covered how United's operation is this really well-oiled machine on various fronts. So I will be looking out for stuff that is sort of out of their control, like ATC issues and bad weather and, a potentially stagnating U.S. economy. Their limitations at Newark have been really well covered, so that's something to look out for. I will also be keeping an eye out for maintenance issues. You might remember United went through a difficult period last year where they were having a lot of in-flight safety incidents that were making headlines. So that seems to have stabilized and calmed down, but plenty can go wrong when you're flying 1,000 jets around the world every day. There are just so many variables. United will also remain interesting in my eyes in relation to low-cost carriers, it seems as if United is rooting for the demise of Spirit Airlines in particular, which of course Spirit Airlines does not appreciate. So that will be something to watch moving forward as well.
Okay, that's great. Great stuff. Thanks, Howard.
Absolutely, Alfred. Thanks for having me on the show.
That was FlightGlobal's airline reporter for the Americas, Howard Hardee. Now, if you want to learn more about United and the wider North American market, you can have a look at the FlightGlobal and Airline Business websites. And join us again on Friday for a roundup of the week's aviation news from other members of the FlightGlobal team, and again next Monday for another deep dive. FlightGlobal Focus is a production of FlightGlobal with audio production by Lucy Johnson. Now, if you have comments about today's episode, or if you want to be a sponsor for this podcast, please email podcast@flightglobal.com. That's podcast@flightglobal.com. And you can find future episodes wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. This has been Alfred Chua. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time for FlightGlobal Focus.